Welcome back, Nick.
That was so fast. I love it. I'm back. We're back.
Are you here? Are you present?
I'm trying to be. Yeah.
All right.
Are you?
I think so. I think after listening to Latha Poonamallee, our guest, I've really spent a lot of time pondering mindfulness.
Yeah, why is that? Do you want to share a little bit about what we talked about and some of the research she does?
So she does research on mindfulness, and I guess broadly her ability to apply mindfulness into like the business setting,
right?
Specifically towards leadership. And yeah, very interesting the way she uses in some of her classes meditative practice as a way of kind of like level setting and like bringing down some of the stress, anxiety, and emotions that can come along with making, business decisions or having business pressures or whatever that may be, and getting to a place where like you can make a good, solid decision. I think that's really, the goal of what she's trying to do.
Yeah.
And it was very interesting. I think it's something that will really catch on, but, we were kind of talking about before this, that there's a second piece to getting, once you get to that point where you have reached a state of mindfulness and you feel like you can achieve that, there's another step of, okay, now put that into practice. And I think that that in addition to what Latha is stating, and I don't actually think she's not saying that. I think she's just taking care of step one first.
Yeah.
But I think that's a really important piece to the whole equation.
Yeah, I agree. So brief rundown. She started implementing mindfulness practices in the classroom with some of her students. She would engage the whole classroom of students in some type of mindfulness, whether it be for like 5 to 10 minutes or 20 minutes. And she just saw this great response amongst these business students. Or actually, it was engineering students at first. She was like, wow, why don't I apply this more? Like, this is something that's part of my background. Let's get this going. And so she authored a book, Expansive Leadership, and it kind of goes through a 28-day program of cultivating mindfulness and hopefully implementing it more in leadership. But yeah, Brennan, did you want to expand on that, or did you have any?
Yeah, I'll just share a quick story, and I was just sharing this to Nick, so hopefully I can make this seem as freshly thought as before. But I mean, during the Cuban Missile Crisis, JFK was faced with all of his counsel basically telling him that like it's time for us to attack. And his brother, Bobby Kennedy, who was the attorney general at the time, passed him a note that says, I think I finally understand how Tojo felt before Pearl Harbor. And referencing Hideki Tojo, who was the prime minister of Japan. And it was just a good example of a moment where, and obviously we know what the outcome of that decision that JFK made was, which was like, we didn't engage in a nuclear attack. But just that little passing of the note and like understanding what the devastation that is going to come from this. Like we know what happened at Pearl Harbor. So to think about what is the actions I'm about to take, how is that going to play out for people? What kind of devastation is that going to cause? And is this situation worth that? And I think that is an extreme example of the practicality of mindfulness, like in action, and really utilizing that level setting and level of awareness to really make good, sound decisions in really important situations. So
yeah, I'm pulling up my phone right now because there was a quote that I posted from the conversation we had with Dr. Poonamallee, and it's from her book. And it says, between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies growth and freedom. And I think I really liked how she specified that it's a space.
yeah,
Like, instead of just saying, all right, you're going to respond to something that happens to you, and like you need to be mindful of that moment. I think specifying that it's a space in time that you can actually have to like really think about what you're going to do and how you're going to react is helpful.
and I think, and in the story that I was describing too, a great part where that is an example is like just his brother sliding him a note, even if it was almost in jest in a way. it like interrupted his pattern of thought to give him additional perspective.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really important example of how mindfulness can be achieved on a regular basis, is like just interrupting your typical operating procedure to think about things in a different way for a second.
Yeah.
And be given a different piece of information that can totally change your perspective, and that can inform a better decision.
Right. Yeah. I think about this in terms of like impulse control too. I think it's the same thing, but the way that we learned about impulse control in one of my psychopathology courses was that our teacher wrote up on the board like activating event or stimulus, and then did an arrow and then response. And she said, if you want to start to work on impulse control, below it she did activating event, arrow, thought, and then arrow, response. And just inserting this thought right before. And if you can do that, then hopefully it won't be as impulsive.
Yeah.
But it's like, this is just something that seems something we talk about all the time, but we don't really break down and actually discuss and think about how it affects our lives and in everyday decisions, right? And that's what she's trying to do with leadership. Like in these choices that we make, in these emotional responses or just impulsive responses, there's a big effect that comes with that. And if we're not trying to be mindful in these moments and make the proper decisions, then these effects might not be the best.
Yeah. There's a beautiful Stoic quote that I think is extremely relevant to what you just said, and it's, the greatest remedy to anger is delay.
Oh man, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's so true. I like, and that's what the thought is, right? In your example, inserting the thought there is just giving yourself the opportunity to delay your action to really contemplate what the situation is.
Yeah. You think about like working with kids, like a lot of people will say like, I can tell you're very frustrated right now, or if a kid's having an outburst, like, let's talk about this when you're ready to. Like, you need to go take some time. And it's like, yeah, there needs to be a delay. Like, this is going to be a hard moment that's very frustrating. Like, this delay is going to serve us.
Right. Yeah.
But sometimes it's, we're just like all angry, and then we say, let's do this.
Yeah.
I'm going to flip this table.
Well, that's hard with kids too, I feel like, because I don't know that the thought processes and the rationality maybe has like been instilled in them.
Yeah, that's where CoRegulation will come in.
Yeah,
it's got to be
like
somebody.
For children, I would imagine, and correct me if I'm wrong, that it's much more of a collaborative delay.
Definitely.
Than a like, you need to wait.
Well, yeah, this is what I'm seeing. I mean, this is what we see in something that I've found really valuable in learning, is that like we blame a lot of these kids and teens who come out of very hard environments and very hard childhoods for acting out and having these emotional problems and being disruptive in class. And it's like their needs probably weren't tended to. Like their emotions when they were children, they were acting them out and they probably weren't getting received or co-regulated, because like as a child, you don't know how to regulate your emotions. It's just part of the process. And that's why you reach out to other people like caregivers and different people in your life to help you regulate those emotions and help teach you how to regulate your emotions. But the first part of that is co-regulation, for somebody to literally embrace you and tell you things are going to be okay so that your body can start to calm itself. And when these kids don't get that, like it shows up. And then when it shows up that some kid's being disruptive, we blame them for not getting their needs met. And it's like, that's not their fault.
Yeah.
Like they need co-regulation in that moment. And if we can't respond to that, then it's just going to be a pattern.
Yeah.
And it's terrible because we don't see it like that. We don't see the underlying causes of these things. We see the response, and that's it.
Right.
And I guess that's another problem of this, is that we don't understand maybe the activating event fully. If it activated 10 years ago and there's still a response today.
Yeah. It's become a conditioned response in some ways.
Yeah.
To negative event, still have this immaturely developed childlike behavior.
Yeah. And if the negative disruptive behavior is going to get you the attention that you need instead of the polite behavior or the quiet, then you're going to keep acting out.
Right.
Because that's going to be the pattern.
This is an interesting question. And so tell me what you think based on a psychological framework, if this is true or not. I hear a lot of times that like for parents, right? Like they make it a distinction. Don't just like give in when your kid is throwing a temper tantrum. And I think some parents do just give in. And again, like you just said, reinforces this negative behavior will get them the attention that they want. But then I also think there's another angle of like taking a child who's having a temper tantrum, calming them, trying to address their needs and bringing them back into a proper emotional place, and then giving them what they want anyway. Like both result in giving them what they want, but if you regulate first, you reinforce that was what triggered the reward that they're looking for.
Right.
As opposed to, I don't have the patience. I'm just trying to get you to be quiet. Here you go.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's a small shift that a lot of people take for granted when saying either just don't give in to them at all or just give in to them to make them be quiet. But there's a middle ground of like regulate them and then give them what they want. They need the positive reinforcement. I mean, that's building that relationship with your child. Yeah. But on the same standpoint, you've got to get them into a place where they understand that what they're being rewarded for is the regulation of themselves in a sense.
Yes. No, I think you're spot on. And like, I'm by no means an expert on this. I'm still a trainee trying to work with people, but this will be a topic that we'll bring up with a professor that we talk to.
Yeah, for sure.
But no, I think you're spot on of like, there's a power to like also seeing that could be a teaching moment with your kid. Like if they're feeling super dysregulated and angry, like you can name that for them. If they don't really know what's going on, you can say like, you're angry right now. You're really frustrated. I can see you have a lot of big feelings right now. And then like you're saying, help them co-regulate and then talk about and establish boundaries of like, this isn't okay. Like, I'm not going to give you this thing because of this response, but I'm going to give you some care and nurturance. But maybe if you're angry because I'm not buying you a candy bar, like I'm not just going to give you the candy bar to have you calm down. Like that's not what the proper response is going to be.
Right. Yeah, I feel like even in that, what you just said, the ability to explain to a child what they're feeling.
Yeah. It's a huge piece of it.
Yeah. And I think there's even a willingness for parents to even attempt to explain, right? Like that's even a hard thing to do, to be a parent and realize I need to tell them exactly what is happening here because otherwise they're not going to be able to put the right labels on it.
Yeah.
And I think that's like a big showing by example thing, right? Like you're upset right now because I won't give you the candy bar. We have dinner in an hour. If after dinner, like, and give options and explain what it is going to take for them to get what they want.
Yeah.
Like, rather than it just being like, no, because I said so. Like, that doesn't teach them anything about the world or their emotions.
Yeah.
And it's like, and then they're just going to be left with like trying to come with an understanding in their own. And I think all of these examples that we're describing right now are moments where mindfulness is present, right? Like being mindful, whether it's a business setting, a parenting setting, or any type of relationship setting, when things feel chaotic and out of control, it's the ability to be mindful in that moment that allows people to just make better decisions.
Yes.
And I think that's exactly what Latha is trying to achieve with everything she's doing in the business school.
Exactly. And this is that's also the challenging piece to it too, when we have like a system of that's not really caring or supporting people the way that they're supposed to be. So we have parents who come from pretty traumatized childhoods and they become parents and they find difficulty in trying to be mindful when responding to their child. And so they react maybe irrationally, with a very impulsive nature, and they can't do that proper response. And so then it goes to the kid. And if the kid doesn't get the proper care or intervention, then the cycle continues.
And to compound that even further, they don't even know how to attempt to remedy when they've made an improper response.
Yeah.
So because it's not like you said no, you did the bad thing, and like you can never go back and have that conversation with your child. And I think there's too much of like, man, I missed an opportunity. I didn't do that. I'm beating myself up. I shouldn't have treated them that way. Go tell your child that. You know what I mean? Like that's an important piece. You're not going to be perfect in every single moment.
Right. Yeah.
So it's like even more compounded by the fact that people don't even know when to recognize, like to have that retrospective of like, I did this wrong. I need to go tell them I did this wrong. Because yeah, then it's like, it's real. And so like parents who are in those situations, they don't even know the proper behavior that they should have been exhibiting. But then on top of that, when they do the wrong thing, they don't even know how to to move on from there.
Yeah.
And then it's the compounding of never, ever being able to remedy what even they know is the bad behavior.
Yes.
That compounds this even further.
Yeah. I think there's a psychologist who last name is Winnicott, who like made the phrase good enough mothering, which we can say good enough caregiving now. But like there were these ideals of how you're supposed to like raise your child and nurture them like in an infant. And what this guy proposed is that like, you just need to be good enough. Like you're not going to be perfect.
Yeah.
And you can't have that expectation for yourself. Like there are going to be times like you mess up. But you just need to understand that if you're responsive and you're caring and you're knowledgeable to like a good enough extent to, you know, how to care for your child and respond to them, then it's going to be okay for the most part.
Yeah.
And yeah, that does need to get preached, right? Like,
Yeah,
that's important.
Because I think that's a step before trying to be perfect.
Yeah.
Trying to identify when you've been imperfect and then doing whatever you can to remedy the imperfection. But I think to your point, there's a lot of people who are like, I messed that up. What behavior do I need to do? I'm going to do that next time. That's super hard. But just being able to identify even 3 hours later, I shouldn't have acted that way. Now I can do something about it. That's an achievable goal for a lot of people, you know, but it's not a very common, as far as I can tell, like strategy. I feel like this self-help culture we've kind of got is like, this is what you need to do to act right the first time. And if you don't act right the first time, you lost it. I don't feel like that's being said explicitly that way, but I feel like that's how people perceive the information that they get.
Yeah. I'm wondering if like the super challenging part is the feedback part of it. Like you see it when you raise a child, right? Like how they continue to respond or continue to behave is based on the feedback you're giving them or the feedback that they're receiving from other people. And it's the same thing in the business world. If you're making a decision and you're getting feedback from your employees or your value as a company now or different things like that, if you're not willing to receive the feedback that's necessary, then you're not going to be able to change those behaviors or decisions.
Yeah.
So I guess it goes back to listening too.
Right. And realizing that a temper tantrum might be feedback for you.
It is, yeah.
Not a misbehavior from them.
Yeah.
Right. I think it's like that idea of servant leadership. Like, are you in whatever capacity, parents or leaders, right? Like are you taking all forms of feedback and trying to be better, or are you just trying to like mold the child to your will?
Yeah. Yeah. This Gary Vee, people can say a lot of different things about Gary Vee, but I saw this one clip of he was doing a talk and there was a fan that said, like, I'm hiring, I'm firing, I'm hiring, I'm firing. Like, what's going on? Like, what's the problem in my business? Like, is it me? And he was like, it's exactly you. And he was like, as you're the owner of a company, you don't, like, these people don't work for you. You work for them. Like, that's just how it has to be.
Yeah.
Like, if they work for you, they don't give a shit about the company.
Right.
They're not receiving all the assets. They're making a salary and that's it.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing for parenting. Like, you're working for your child. Your child's not working for you.
Yeah.
If your child's working for you, they might become exactly how you want them to become, but like, it's probably not going to be in the best way.
Yeah.
Like, you need to work for them to build the best version of themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. I've heard Jordan Peterson say that is the goal of a parent, is to prepare your child to be completely sufficient in the world without you.
Yeah.
I mean, and if you're truly trying to do that, you're not trying to get them to be you. You're trying to get them to be the best them out there.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like there's a lot of people who are like just trying to form them to their ideals rather than what operates properly in society.
Yeah.
Because it's very different.
Yeah. Another little interesting thing on it, a little side note, since you brought up Jordan Peterson, I saw a clip of his that said, if you find in a conversation that you're not being listened to, stop talking and just observe what the other person is doing. Like, just watch them and you'll be able to see what they want you to know, or like what they want to say and what their motives are. I was like, damn, like it seems pretty like dark and like manipulative almost.
Yeah.
But it's true, I think, to a certain extent too.
Oh yeah.
But instead we have this response to a response or to an activating event instead of taking that space to really try to be mindful in that moment and understand what's going on.
Yeah, that's a delay tactic, right?
It is.
Because it would be so easy to just push back.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And that's, I mean, shit, that's what we're seeing every day in our world today, politically.
I think it just, and I think mindfulness is a great tool in the like development of the self.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't feel like we've got a culture at the moment that is really promoting like true self-development.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we're doing more of showing people the proper way to like kind of conform to the group identity and being like, like kind of, I'm going to kind of make fun of like the situation in a little bit, but like, are your statements and your beliefs woke enough to like fit in with this group?
Yeah.
To be truly a good liberal, let's say. And like the identity politics thing, like people who are subscribing to all the political views of what it means to be liberal because their identity is as a liberal. And I don't feel like, and the group think that comes out of that, and like, oh, I don't have to work on myself because like I just do what the liberals do and that's going to be good because that's who I am.
Yeah.
But there's no development of like being a better version of you. Like there's a you and then there's a you within your social groups. And Jordan Peterson lays this out really well, but the whole idea of like aspiring to be something better than you are today and making sacrifices to achieve that better. If your identity is a group's identity, then there is no future ideal. It's the group has an ideal, and you never work on yourself. And there's a lot of literature to support the fact that setting a lofty goal for yourself and watching yourself move forward through that progression is the primary driver for positive emotion, right? Seeing yourself progress through the hierarchy, I guess as an example, to rank up in a job, you feel positive reinforcement from that. And if you don't set a goal, you can't see yourself moving towards that goal.
Yeah.
So to be involved in this like group identity thing is an extremely empty feeling for the individual. And I think it's a reason as we start to push these more like political identity groups, I think we're going to continue to see an increase in people who are experiencing depression and loneliness and lack of life satisfaction because they're not setting a goal for themselves and they're not getting the positive reinforcement and positive emotions of moving and improving oneself. But I don't think as a culture we're at a spot where we think there's any value in developing the self.
Yeah, I think you hit it on the head with like using the word culture, I think especially.
Yeah.
Because that's what Dr. Poonamallee talked about, is that like this Western culture talks about mindfulness in a very evidence-based scientific way of like, you use this practice because it's shown that it reduces some stress levels and you do this one thing every day. And maybe that's helpful. Like it's definitely a piece of the puzzle, but she really emphasize that this is a way of life, and this is what it came from a practice of an understanding of being a way of life in these meditative practices that have gone on for like thousands of years.
Yeah.
But we're in this phase, and this might be a generalization, or this might just not be correct. But I feel like in our Western culture right now, we're in this phase of like, there's no time for that. Like, you just need to work and do all this stuff so fast paced and get to the top. And now we're like, oh God, people are stressed out. There's a lot of disparities. Like, maybe we should start to focus on the self a little bit more.
Yeah.
But we're in the early stages of that when this has been something that's been going on for so long.
Yeah. And I think an interesting, like even in some of your language choices you use there, and I know we've kind of hit on this a lot in a lot of our recent conversations, but like part of what Latha's point was it was kind of like this bridge of like incorporating the spiritual practice within, right? Like there's spiritual needs that need to be met. And I don't know a more simplified point of what religion is than a framework for a person to achieve and attain a higher state and form of being than they currently are, right? All religions have gods, aka ideals out there, like that they worship, and the literatures within those religions are designed to get people closer to the more ideal version of themselves. I think like that's a pretty basic level of what the goal of religion is. I feel like that is exactly what's missing. And to your point, as society, we've taken this approach of we need to work on the self, or we need to work hard, like do whatever we can. And now we're backtracking now into this, like, okay, we need to work on self-care, but we're not doing that in the context of a religious setting anymore.
No.
We're doing that in the context of like, I need to care for myself, and my identity is still in like this group. And I think it's met with like an emptiness as we try and work on the self. We're realizing maybe we don't even know the self.
Yeah.
Because we only have been in, like, I'm only a so-and-so with this company. I'm only a so-and-so with this social or political group. I'm like, but that's not you.
No.
And I feel like people get into those situations and then realize, oh my God, like, who am I?
Yeah.
Like, what am I doing here? What am I moving towards?
Yeah.
And they have no answers for those questions. And I love that Latha bridged those two. The business, I think the business and the spiritual are kind of like this really edgy, cool area of opportunity for people to develop the self. Because I promise, if people work on themselves and being the best version of themselves, their group gets better. It's not the other way around. It's not make the group as good as I can and I'm going to all of a sudden be better.
Yeah.
You know, it's one then the other. And I think there's a cool opportunity potentially for this spiritual tone to come into the workplace, still stay very separate, but recognize one another as legitimate a little bit more. And I think that, you know, just I'm no particular religion, the general loss of religious belief in the world, I think is going to be very harmful as people start to fall out of their group thought identity, like factions.
Yeah.
You know, because there's going to be nothing there to catch them.
Yeah.
And to give them any kind of structure or basis for moving forward again.
Yeah. So what is going to happen with religion moving forward? Are we going to keep going just more towards this
atheistic
non-religion,
standpoint?
Spiritual route? I don't know. I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, I think it will be interesting to see, because and I kind of brought this up on one of our recent interviews that we haven't posted yet, but I've got this opinion that the purpose of the religions at large is to provide like the base level of morality and structure to get you towards the higher ideal. I'm really hard pressed to feel like there's any version of something different that accomplishes that goal as thoroughly as religion can. We're obviously craving spirituality, right? So like it checks off that box right off the bat. Like there's people who want it. Now they just have to believe that it's going to serve them in the right way. And I think that's just a matter of reinterpretation of what's already out there, not reinvention of something new.
Yeah.
I think we need to frame the religions in a way that are more utilitarian, maybe. Like there's real practicality here. And it answers every single question that you may have about what your lost identity feeling is coming from. We can potentially answer all of them. And I'm not saying that people have to adopt every single practice that religion has ever offered, just because there's going to be things in all religions that people find an issue with.
Yeah. But that's okay. That's
right.
what we need to understand.
Take what's beneficial to you and use it for your benefit. That's the point.
Yeah. As you were talking, there's like, it was very intentional for like in the Genesis story for like there to be a specific day of rest.
Yeah.
And that's something we don't have in our culture right now.
No.
Like we have weekends, but people work on weekends.
Yeah.
Like there's no specific day of rest
and so much more so now than ever. I feel like the work on weekends for like the working class people who are working 9 to 5s and have their weekends off is you're working the job of pandering to your social group. So you're busy, you're exhausted. Like I don't consider that true rest.
No.
You're having to contend with the like philosophies of your group because that's your way of reaffirming your identity. And I feel like, it's exhausting and it's hollow work, to be honest.
And this is probably why we should just like stop working 9 to 5s. That's a whole nother conversation.
No, I don't think that's the answer.
It's the answer.
You have to set goals for yourself.
Work 1 day a week, have 6 days of rest.
That'd be the opposite. I think we need 6 days of work maybe and 1 day of actual rest.
You absolute animal. That's just super intentional. Then you have no social life.
I think people just need to like recognize that like they can do more in their 9 to 5.
I don't like that.
I mean, like that the work they're doing is good, as maybe unjustifiable as it may be. I feel like just have confidence that what you're doing is attempting to contribute to something that does have a good goal at heart. And then like set a goal for yourself with like for you, right? Like I'll tell you what a good goal for you could be. I'm not saying you have to say that you're going to achieve this next year, but a 10-year goal. Like, why couldn't you be the director of a psychology department within like a mental health facility? I think you could do that. That would be amazing. Think about all the good work you could do.
Yeah.
And how much good impact you can have on a team of psychologists rather than just yourself. And if like, how fulfilling would that be to see yourself go from the trainee to an acting psychologist? Like you're on that path to that, and that target will change, but at least set yourself that target of like, I can have such a greater impact. And I know that my intent is good and positive if I set myself a goal of being the director of a psychology department in a hospital. Like, like, why not set yourself that goal? You're capable.
So you're still.
I'm saying commit to your work and use it as a way of benefiting yourself on developing yourself.
What if it's stressful though? Like even if I do become successful on that path, but it's very, very stressful, and it has longer term effects that
then change your goal.
Consequence.
Then change the target.
But what if that's just like way too complex? What if there are factors that are
Nick, you're
impacting
describing life.
But what if I change my target and it's
gonna
another
it will be too complex.
But what if the root problem is that there's too many hours that I'm working and I'm not doing enough to take care of myself?
Then change the target. You shouldn't feel like you have to take care of yourself.
But how would I change the target?
That is the symptom.
Yeah, but what would the target be then?
Finding a company that allows you to maybe work remote. Finding a different capacity to do the same type of work. The target doesn't have to be related. But there has to be a target. And it has to be up.
But what if
here's an example.
What if the system's flawed and I want to work with certain types of like people and serve these communities, but the funding's not there? And so it prohibits my ability to really like serve myself and my family. And then also it is maybe not seen as highly because you're working at this place instead of this place when this place might be doing better
You're
work.
confusing, I think, what I'm saying, because everything you just mentioned is in regards to achieving status and money.
No.
It was, if you listen back to yourself. Well, we have it on record. But what I'm saying is, I'll give you a quick, easy answer. You open up a private practice. You control your workload so that you have exactly as many clients as you want. You charge what you want because you think your service is justifiable. And you have I don't.
That's the problem, though. I can't charge a lot of money if I want to serve underserved populations.
Then maybe you have to take on a handful of high dollar clients so that you can subsidize the work that you really want to do.
Yeah.
You take on 5 business executive clients, you go to their homes, you do like really nice work with them, and then 80% of your time you spend helping kids in underprivileged communities.
Yeah. If I could get people that pay like $1,000 a session.
Why couldn't you?
I mean, possibly. I'd feel almost unjust to do that as well, though.
That's imposter syndrome.
Well, I don't know about that. I just don't think, I think I respect people's
you would have to provide
value.
You would have to provide a service that is worth that money. I'm not saying you wouldn't have to do that.
Yeah.
And that might mean changing for 5 people. There is no rule or regulation on, and correct me if I'm wrong here, on what your service is supposed to be.
No, if it's in private practice, no.
So let me give you a theory. You want to charge $1,000 an hour. You have 5 executive clients who are really struggling. They just need more of that like mind-setting, executive coaching, psychology basis. You show up, reoccurring appointment, 1 time a week in their office. Mm-hmm. That's a service right there, man. You're going to them. You're respecting their time.
Yeah.
You're providing a legitimate service. You're a real person in there meeting with them.
Right.
So
yeah, no, you're right. You're right.
So
I
like,
agree.
Just make the service worth the price.
Yeah. I think I just almost, this is just something that's like personal to me of like feeling uncomfortable of taking all this money because what I'm really wanting to do is just something that is genuine and helping. And like, I think it shouldn't be that I have to take money in order to do that. But I think it comes back to my like fault with money. I'm just
sure. Yeah. I think you have 2 conflicts going on within you that you have to find a compromise on at some point.
Yeah.
You're not going to achieve both of what you're saying.
And that's I guess that's just the shitty part about it is that like, I'm going to need money in order to do the work that I want to do, which like what? Yeah.
Or you're going to have to be accepting of the lifestyle that's going to come with doing the work you want to do, which is going to be a much lesser lifestyle.
Yeah. And it's very different.
Yeah.
It's,
because like, I mean,
those are the complexities.
Yeah. Minimum wage. And you would never be making minimum wage, but I mean, people can get by on lower wages. It's just what kind of life do you want to live? Mm-hmm. And what kind of safety and security and protection to your family do you want to be able to provide? That's a noble thing to be going out for. Mm-hmm. That 5 executive clients might be a worthy sacrifice to help the 20 kids that you're going to be able to work with. And as much as you don't like it, you're doing it for a good reason, to provide for your family and to be able to really be able to focus on these kids. I think I don't see how that would be unjustifiable.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess I'm just frustrated still with the system at large too.
Well, yeah.
But I guess that's always going to kind of be there.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you're right. You're right.
Yeah.
Respect.
I got you. So that's about $1,000 for the half hour, actually.
Oh shit. All right. Well, Brendan, this was a good one.
This was. We went longer than we thought.
Yeah. We said that this was going to be a
20,
quicker
25
one.
minute.
But no, almost approaching 40.
Yeah. We thought we had this topic wrapped up tight, and we did not.
No.
It's deep and complex.
We clearly do not. I think we still have more to talk about.
For sure.
That's just the theme of this podcast, though.
We will help you find a rabbit hole.
Yeah, we will. So thanks for listening, everybody. Our next guest is actually kind of like almost a follow-up on this topic, and we talk about religion, we talk about leadership, we talk about our conscience, and yeah, did you have anything else you'd like to say about that?
I think you hit the nail on the head.
Yep. So that's a fun one. Stay tuned and hope you have a good week.
Bye, everybody.
See ya.